This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
Between the two of them, they have written nearly 20 #1 songs. Charlie and Dana Hunt Black on this edition of Conversations. Charlie Black and Dana Hunt Black have written some of country music's most recognizable songs, performed by some of Nashville's marquee artists. Dana's hits include two #1s for George Strait, Check Yes or No and Write This Down. Additionally, she's had songs recorded by Alan Jackson, Suzy Bogus, Clay Walker, and Tracy Byrd. Charlie Black is one of Music City's most prolific songwriters. 15 times his songs have landed at #1 on the country music charts. Black struck country gold, penning #1 hits for artists Anne Murray, Gary Morris, Earl Thomas Conely, KT Oslin, Reba McEntire, and Alan Jackson. His impressive resume has landed him a couple of Grammy nominations and a place in the Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame. As a side note, Charlie and Dana not only write together, they're also husband and wife. And we're glad to have them on this edition of Conversations. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Big question, how did the two of you get together on the husband-wife thing? Two songwriters?
Oh, you know, that's a good question because songwriters, traditionally are not real compatible.
Yeah.
but we were, thankfully. And, we started out
writing songs
together.
Yeah,
and it just carried on from there, you know.
So do you still write together? A lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
No?
Not a lot. Not like
Not
we.
as much as we
no,
should.
no.
Yeah. I was kind of curious because both of you have had so much success on your own, so I was just kind of curious, how much do you collaborate? Do you sit down on a daily or weekly basis and say, hey, we're gonna try to write a song? Or?
I'd say a weekly basis. It doesn't always happen, but yeah.
I'm always curious, what's your process like? How do you do it?
Well, usually for me, it's I'm very melodic, and usually the process is I could be walking down the beach, or I could be driving down the road, and something will come to my head, and I'll sing it, and then something, it just kind of, maybe some lyrics, and then I'll go home and go, hey, check this out, and that's usually how it starts, or vice versa.
Yeah.
A little piece of something rolling around the room, and you take it from there. Sometimes it turns into a song, and sometimes it doesn't, but that's the way it is.
How many songs have you written over your career?
Oh man, I've written.
I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you, but in the thousands for sure.
In the thousands.
Yeah. Wow. Since we started, since the first time we, sat down to write a song someplace, because I was 14 when I started, and once I wrote that first song, it was all over.
You were addicted.
That was it. It really was. It happened that way. I wrote that first song, and I thought, this is what I want to do. Yeah. And we actually, both of us were the kind of writer that when we were in Nashville, we wrote 5 days a week. We looked at it as a
job.
This is our job, and we went. And of course, you don't write 5 songs a week, but you go with the intention of writing a song every day, and over the period of a year, you get some good ones, hopefully.
Now, for you, Dana, was it the same way? Did you start very young?
No.
No?
No, I was always around music, 2 brothers and a younger sister and a mom that sang, and they all played instruments. We all played something.
Right.
But I didn't really get interested in writing songs until I was in my late 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had another career going, and, it's just one of those things. I actually had a dear friend of mine was killed in a car accident, and I ended up just writing a little song for his service.
Okay.
And shared that song, and I don't know, it just sparked something inside of me because it touched so many people.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what got me going, you know.
Interesting. And you moved to Nashville then?
Yeah, a couple of years later I did. I moved to Nashville. Actually, I was encouraged by Garth Brooks' road manager at the time, Mick Weber, and he's like, you need to go, you need to go. He and I met somehow, some way back in North Carolina where I'm from. And he just kept saying, you need to go, you need to go. Yeah. And so he he kind of opened a few doors for me, and anyway, I took a chance.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you sit down, and I'll open this question to both of you, when you sit down and write a song, do you have an artist in mind when you write something? Do you think, wow, this would be a really good Garth Brooks song, or this would be a really good Anne Murray song, or George Strait song?
Only once.
Yeah, only once.
I'm serious. Only once, and normally I just write. I'm the type of writer. I'll write what's in the room, and I don't usually think about who I'm writing for.
Right.
But one time, I went to Charlie and I was like, okay, because I was writing for George Strait's company, his publishing company, and I was like, okay, George is cutting a Christmas album. We're going to write a Christmas song for George, okay? I did.
Yeah, and Miracle of Miracles, he liked it and recorded it, and so that's the one time that it really worked out. You know?
It paid off.
Yeah, and it just it doesn't really happen that way too often. I think for me, there are guys that can do it.
Yeah.
But for me, if I sat down to write, for example, an Anne Murray song back then, it invariably came out to be a parody of Anne Murray songs, some of which I had written. And so I recognized it right off as, no, this is, you know. And so, you know, it really does kind of, for us, it's always kind of been better to write the song, try to get the song as true to the song and the idea and what you're trying to say as possible. Mm-hmm. And when you get all done and you're listening to it and it's finished, then you say, okay, this sounds like George Strait, or this sounds like Anne Murray, or let's pitch it to them.
Right.
And let's don't pitch it to anybody else until they don't like it, you know.
Gotcha.
And hopefully they will. Yeah. But that's usually the way it works best. We did write the one Christmas song, and of course that's a pretty, you know, that's pretty straight ahead. We're going to write a Christmas song, which is limiting it to Christmas.
Right.
And that one worked out. So that, you know.
Speaking of Anne Murray, you've had a couple huge hits with her, Little Good News and Shadows in the Moonlight. Mm-hmm. And so tell me how those two songs came about.
Well, Shadows in the Moonlight was, I wrote that with my buddy Rory Burke, who is a Hall of Fame songwriter. And it was the first time that we were going to write together, and I had an appointment to write with him. And so I was driving along the night before thinking, I don't want to go in there cold, you know, I'd like to have something. And it was a really bright moonlit night. I mean, just literally just saw the shadow of the car. And I, you know, was looking into the shadows of the moonlight to find an idea, and I thought, well, maybe that's an idea, I don't know. Anyway, I picked out a few notes and played it for Rory, and he put, yeah, I like that one, let's do that one. A Little Good News was interesting because I wrote that also with Rory Burke and my buddy Tommy Rocco. And Tommy and I had gotten together on, you know, sort of Tuesday morning or whatever it was, to see if we could write a song. And the phone rang, and Rory said, I was supposed to write today, but I got canceled. Can I come write with you guys? Said, well, Rory, sure, come on over. So anyway, we got there, and as songwriters do, we're making coffee and talking about it, and the TV's on in the background, and it was one of those periods, kind of like today, it's one of those periods where every story was just worse than the last one, right? And so then there was coffee, and there was the TV, and then somehow we're in the room, and we just, as often happens, we just start singing what we were talking about. Yeah. And I can remember actually saying about halfway into the first verse, are we writing this? Yeah. And we, you know, and we literally, we wrote that song, we wrote it from the first word to the last. And that doesn't happen too often either. Right. Usually you have a little piece of something, or an idea, a title. Right. But we literally just started writing it, and it went exactly like you heard it. And it was basically, you know, right off the news that morning, everything that had gone wrong
Yeah.
in that period, you know. So
Such a great song, and as you said, it's still, you know, relevant today. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
you
you
could-
change a few of the characters.
yeah,
but
you could change a couple of names in a couple of places in it, and unfortunately, it's still a current song.
and Anne Murray won a Grammy for that.
She did.
And on top of that, I think recently she recorded it again with the Indigo
Yeah,
Girls, right?
is that great or what? To get the song recorded twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did a wonderful job. Won the Grammy for her performance on that song. And then she did she did an album with all of her favorite female singers here a few years ago, and she recorded that song with the Indigo Girls, which is great.
Yeah, it is. It really
It was
is.
fabulous.
I'm going to have you guys do that song at the end of the program.
Sure.
But we were talking about Shadows in the Moonlight. Why don't you do a little bit of that for us?
Okay. Yeah. This is the first song that Anne recorded a bunch of my songs, but this is the first one that she recorded. So. Little shadows in the moonlight, darling, I'll meet you at midnight. Hand in hand we'll go dancing through the Milky Way, and we'll find a little hideaway where we can love the whole night away. With the shadows in the moonlight, right up to the light of day. Moonlight is young and made so are we. I'm gonna make you glad you came. Ooh, you want anything, just bring your love for me. Darling, I will do the same. The shadows in the moonlight, darling, I'll meet you at midnight. Hand in hand we'll go dancing through the Milky Way.
Awesome. Great song. That one stands the test of time, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's
It
a
really
great
does.
song.
Now, you had a big hit with George Strait, Check Yes or No.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Check yes or no. I actually went to Nashville with that idea,
Really?
but didn't write it probably for a year after I moved there. But I was writing with a guy named Danny Wells, and Danny and I actually had been working on another song. We were at ASCAP writing the song, and I'll never forget, we had been trying to write this one particular song, and we finally just looked at each other. We like ripped it off the paper or the pad and threw it in the trash, and we're like, now what? Because like it just wasn't going anywhere. And I just thought, well, you know what? I got a little idea, you know, and I just, do you love me? Do you want to be my friend? You know, and Danny's like, what is that again? And so I just got this little idea, you know, and just got these couple of, you know, do you love me?
Go ahead and do a little
Just
for us.
sure. Let's see. It started way back in 3rd grade. I used to sit beside Emmylou Hayes, pink dress matching bow and a ponytail. She kissed me on the school bus, told me not to tell. Next day I chased her around the playground, across the monkey bars to the merry-go-round. And Emmylou got caught passing me a note. Before the teacher took it, I read what she wrote. Do you love me? Do you want to be my friend? And if you do, well then don't be afraid to take me by the hand. If you want to, I think this is how love goes. Check yes or no.
Great. That's a
Yeah.
great song.
Thank you.
That had to be, I would imagine, just a thrilling moment for you when you found out George Strait is going to because for people who don't follow country music, George Strait is like country music royalty and has been for years and years and years.
Yes.
So I would assume if George Strait does your song, you're pretty much going to have a hit.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, that was the first song that I had recorded.
Wow.
Yeah, it was all downhill from there. Oh my God. Yeah, it's like, yeah, where do I go now?
He's like, well,
I've done it, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was the first song, so.
And here's, I'm always curious too, when you do these songs and I'm sure you have in your head kind of how it's going to sound, how often does the artist come back with something and they change it around and you go, well, that's not what I was expecting. Does that happen a lot, or do they generally perform it in the way you visualize it?
I mean, I had a song recorded, Gary Allen recorded a song called It Would Be You. And there were a couple of guys that wanted to record it before him, and they wanted me to change a couple of things in the song. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no. I don't know, that's only happened to me once, I think. You know?
I think in general, songwriters are so grateful when somebody records one of their songs that we don't complain too much if they change a note here or there. Well, but I'll tell you what, generally, generally speaking, the really great artists, if they really feel something strongly, they'll call you and say, look, I'm really feeling just a little, would you mind if we do this? And, you know, a lot of times, no, fine, you have to go ahead and do it. Right. And a lot of times it doesn't, you know, you know, our job is to present the song as best we can for how you as an artist might make a record out of it. Right. That's why we do demos and so forth. Mm-hmm. Right. And, you know, in general, the majority of the time, they will, the record comes back and it's pretty much, in fact, it's pretty much the way you do it. And in fact, be careful what you put on there, because a lot of times they'll do it, and then when you hear it back, you think, gee, I wish I hadn't done that, you know? But the majority of the time, you know, because the recording techniques and everything are so wonderful these days.
Right.
You get a record like, you know, well, for example, we did a demo. We're talking about the Christmas song that we wrote for George. Right. Well, we did a nice little demo on it, and, you know, it was good. I was proud of it. Right. But when that came back, it was a whole orchestra on it. I mean, aside from, you know, just his regular great, you know, wonderful vocal there with these beautiful, you know, vocals, background vocals and strings and everything else, and I was thinking, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of times, you know, if you're lucky, that's what happens.
Yeah. Another song that you wrote was Come Next Monday.
Yeah.
KT Oslin, who was popular, well, I guess in the 80s and 90s, and is quite a character from what I understand.
Love KT. Love KT.
She's got a lot of personality.
KT is yeah, she is truly one of a kind. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so how'd that song come about?
Well, Come Next Monday, we wrote that, KT and Rory Burke and I wrote that song. And we got together with KT at her house, and she had this little thing going, and she wanted to write about, you know, diets and, you know, just all this stuff. She wanted to put all this stuff together and make it a sort of analogy for this breakup, you know, kiss-off song. Right. And we thought, what are you talking about? Well, anyway, when she started playing it, we got it. And the deal with that song is that we wrote that, and it kind of sat in the vault for years. Actually, it sat in the vault for like 9, 10 years. Wow. And then KT was getting ready to do a record, and she was hot. Yeah. You love to get this call, you know? Yeah. Hey, Charlie, remember that song we wrote, Come Next Monday? Yes. I think I'm going to record that. Okay. Then, you know, we got together and looked at it after all those years and made a couple little, you know, things. And then we didn't hear from her for a little while, and then she said, "Charlie, wait till you hear this. This is great." She was really proud of it, and we were too. It was a great record. I think it stayed at #1 a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing things with that was here's this sort of love song, kiss off song with all these images in it, and somehow the video that she did had to do with the Bride of Frankenstein, and I thought, well, okay, whatever. She made a good Bride of Frankenstein. It was good,
Why don't you do a little bit of it for us?
Oh yeah, sure. Come next Monday, going to bed early. Won't talk dirty for a week or two. Going on a diet, just like sugar, honey. Come next Monday, I'm gonna give up on you. X-rays show some excess baggage. Too much work for a little hard to do. Self-denial is never easy, baby. But come next Monday, I'm gonna give up on you.
And like you say, she has such a great personality and such just a neat presence about her, I think.
She's a wonderful person, and she's like I said, she's truly unique, one of a kind.
Talk a little bit about songwriting business, how it's changed over the years.
It's changed.
It's changed
A lot, right?
A lot.
It's changed
Yeah.
completely.
Well, that's
really.
what kind of drove us. We live in Port St. Joe, Florida, and that's what kind of, when we moved there like 12 years ago, 12 and a half years ago, and it was changing then. So, I don't know, that's what kind of drove us out. It was just.
And it's changing for people who don't understand. It's changing from a standpoint of basically how you're compensated for your work, and because of the digitization, I guess, of music and media.
It's changed in the way that people hear our work now. We were, everybody had, vinyl, and then we had cassettes, and then we had, CDs, and now you push a button and it downloads onto your phone. And keeping track of that, and trying to monetize that is very, very difficult. And the music business, quite honestly, was behind the curve on that. We didn't see it coming the way it happened. We thought, oh well, we'll catch up with this, and we'll get all these things in place. And the way we are paid, songwriters are paid through a system that was set in place in I think it was 1940, and we've been trying to get the Department of Justice to help us with that and redo this, but it's very, very difficult. And even if we do, if it's up there, somebody can pull it down, and they don't necessarily pay you for it.
Right.
And so it's very hard. But the way that has changed, if you're just, and this is a capital J, if you're just a songwriter, and you don't make, you're not on the road, you don't have merch, what you do is write songs. Just to tell you how hard it is, the population of songwriters that are making a living just songwriting is 8-10% of what it was 10 years ago.
8 to 10% of
yes.
Wow.
There used to be 3,000 and something songwriters in Nashville making a living as songwriters. Now there are less than 200. And it's not just the songwriters. The publishers are feeling the same thing. And the way it used to work is if you came to town, off the bus, green as Green Acres, and what you did was you went to a publisher, and the publisher said, look, I'm going to pay you so much money a week so that you could live, and you're going to go in that room and write songs as much as you can. And that's the way it worked for, half a century. Well, now the publisher can't make enough money to pay you a living wage, and so you've got a job, maybe 2 jobs, and then you're trying to write songs and stuff,
Yeah, well, right on the side, yeah. Disruption, technology disrupting an awful lot in the world.
That's it. But having said that, it still can be done.
Yeah.
We like to think that if you walk into town right now, still, with a really, really great song, it'll get recorded.
You can make it happen.
Yeah.
What a pleasure spending some time with both of you.
Yes.
We are going to have you do a little good news here in just a minute. I'm going to close this out. Best of luck to both of you. And we want to let you know that you can keep up with Charlie and Dana at charliedanamusic.com. More of our conversations are also available online at WSRE.org/conversations. We're also on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Take wonderful care of yourself, and we'll see you soon. We're going to close the program with a song written by Charlie Black and performed by Anne Murray, for which she won a Grammy. Here is Charlie and Dana with a little good news.
Rolled out this morning, the kids had the morning show on. Brian Gumble was talking about the fighting in Lebanon. Some senator was squawking about the bad economy. It's gonna get worse, you see. We need a change in policy. There's the local paper rolled up in a rubber band. One more sad story's one more than I can stand. Just once, how I'd like to see the headlines say, not much to print today, can't find nothing bad to say, because nobody robbed a liquor store on the lower part of town. Nobody OD'd, nobody burned a single building down. Nobody fired a shot in anger, nobody had to die in vain. We sure could use a little good news today. I'll come home this evening, I'll bet the news will be the same. Somebody takes a hostage, somebody steals a plane. How I want to hear the anchorman talk about a county fair, and how we cleaned up the air, how everybody learned to care. Oh, tell me, nobody was assassinated in the whole third world today. In the streets of Ireland, all the children had to do was play. Everybody loved everybody in the good old USA.
Support for this program is provided in part by these corporate sponsors. And by viewers like you.